Thanks, Nick, for doing this, and thanks for having us as part of the initial Accelerator program. So a little bit about TerraHub. We're a private blockchain deployed tech company out of Calgary, Alberta. We're currently just over 6,000 users on our network and growing every day. And our focus really is around what we call recognition networks and talent strategy. So our key asset and value is how do we create longer and further trusted relationships between employees and employers. So for us, it's really ultimately comes down to the fundamentals of trust. And how do you really know that the person that's showing up to work today or showing up to your home has all the right certificates and credentials, is verified from their original sources of truth. So a little bit about the history component as to what took us here. We recognize that historically from a credential checking background, we started with the typical world of I knew a guy who knew a guy, therefore I hired him because of word of mouth. And that really created what we call localized economies. Then we moved into starting to verify and learn more about an individual through transcripts and everything from post-secondaries to their associations. Reference checking was great for a while, but now it's become quite hard because of privacy and liability constraints that companies face. And lastly, we kind of all turned to LinkedIn to create and to allow it to be kind of our screening software that tells us whether this candidate is pseudo-real or not. But really what we're focusing on is the future state, which is credential networks. So this is for us, how do you create an indisputable, fast and private platform where you can check and verify all credentials and background checks of an individual. We're all moving towards an economy of digital badges and credentials. And really what those mean in simple form is authority, clearance, credibility, and recognition. So think about your AWS certified cloud practitioner. How do you really verify that the person does actually have it and it comes from a trusted source? So what we've done is we've moved into the world of digital wallets where an individual can store and present their professional credentials and authorizations. So for us, it starts with a daily health attestation. So how do you make sure you can present that you are coming in non-symptomatic to work and protect all of your fellow employees as well? Professional association badges, designations, and credentials all live within the same system. And lastly, how do you ensure that you can share that data? But ultimately, given blockchain, you have the consent and the right to also revoke that data back from the employer if that relationship is no longer in action. So for us, this is actually really neat because it's a great story of the true story of a real fake. So it's a great little picture for most of us that recognize that movie, but really it had to do with everything around how do you really know that that's the person that's supposed to support you in your job that day. And for us, the TerraHub network is intended to become a pre-verified employment network where individuals can showcase that they are who they say they are, and they have the certificates and background that they say that they do. So the success to the new future talent strategy through a private blockchain network is really around having validated credentials, assembling trust where it becomes indisputable while maintaining privacy. So our company has just gone through a full GDPR, PIA, and California-based laws requirements for personal information. And that was quite key to us as we just finished launching NASDAQ Global on our system back in August of this year. And ultimately, it all came down to decreasing risk across multiple groups and ultimately, how do we retain talent in an organization? So as I mentioned, our app focuses on the fit for work and ultimately providing back results into health and safety programs, as well as environmental, social, and governance minimum requirements. So I wanted to walk you guys through a quick demo, which is we've decided to do it as a quick video of our software. So this is where in an administrative environment, an individual can be verified and looked at. So we would know exactly who the individual is as they've been invited to the network. Then we can look within an individual's profile and see what they have as missing certificates, as well as what are certificates that have been verified by the original issuer. We're going to go through a simple process of verifying a certificate that was captured and issued by TerraHub as a company in this case. And the certificate can come in three different formats. One, it can be in a pending status, a verified status, meaning the original issuer has approved it, and a self-uploaded status. We're built on a responsive web interface, which means that the technology can scale to any mobile device or iPad or any other handheld device. And if we do that, then you can manage that information appropriately, regardless of where you are, as long as you have a simple internet connection. So the individual here, Maggie in this case, can now see that she has a verified certificate or credential. The certificate ID, which is the verification ID or the transaction blockchain ID, also gets posted each time. And then in our history component, we're able to then manage that information for future state. This is where Maggie can also go out and share her profile publicly, meaning that she has the ability to create individualized links for the people she wants to share this information with. And those folks can then see what she has available at any given point in time. Within the background of the system, we've also built a projects component where a company, if you're dealing, say, with field operations, if you need to have minimum requirements of certificates prior to coming on site, this is where you're able to now have an at-a-glance matrix of who's compliant, what do they have prior to showing up to a location. And it is a living, breathing system, which means that technically, if you create or add a new minimum requirement, the system automatically updates itself, the matrix updates itself, but further, if you shared this project with a potential customer or employer, they also get to see at a glance every time this has actually changed. So if a project gets completed and you're done working with that customer, you also have the right to revoke further access to that project of all the parties that had views of that information. So this is critical if you want to use it for things such as RFPs. When somebody says, we're going to come and perform this specific job, how can you actually prove that the crew that you have employed is the crew that actually has the minimum requirements prior to walking into a job site? So the last part here is our daily check, which is, in this case, this one is specifically built to the Alberta Health questionnaires, but it is modifiable, and a super administrator can create it and modify it as needed by their different locations where they operate. So that is really the wholesome of our demo and our system, and would love to take any questions.
All right, nicely done. I like to seeing the demo too. That's always helpful. Let me